This is Volcanologist answers volcano questions from Twitter.
This is volcano support.
I don't know why, but I really like this.
At Serene B. Russell. Not gonna lie, the most jarring part about being...
Let me know if this sounds messed up or anything, and I can edit it, or like heighten or lower it.
In Italy was casually being told what looked like a normal mountain super close to where we had been staying was Mount Vesuvius, and that it was still active. Excuse me? She's absolutely right. It is still an active volcano. And in fact, the last time Mount Vesuvius erupted was in 1944. And like many volcanoes, we tend to hear about them in the news when there's lots of activity going on, they have a huge impact. But at any one time around the world, we manage to live quite happily with about 40 to 50 volcanoes erupting anywhere on the Earth. It is true that for Naples, Mount Vesuvius having another eruption would be a big deal. Sometimes it has a really large eruption like it did famously burying Pompeii and Herculaneum. Sometimes it has an eruption like it did in 1944, where it generated a relatively more quiet lava flow and a few smaller explosions. And Mount Vesuvius is capable of generating both of those types of eruptions. Okay, this question is from JZA Siana. God just be making pointless ass. Why the do volcanoes exist? Volcanoes do seem a bit destructive, but actually over geological time,
they didn't exist.
Volcanoes first formed, and what they did is they transported a lot of really useful things like water and oxygen from the interior of the Earth to the outside of the Earth. So to be honest, without volcanoes on the Earth, we wouldn't be here either. At El Caprich says there's a volcano in Indonesia that spews blue lava.
It's not blue lava. What? This actually is really cool, but it's also really sad because this is Kawah Ijen. Kawah Ijen is a volcano in Indonesia that has an acidic lake, and the acidic lake is I think it sounds acidic, but it has a lot of sulfur deposits, and sulfur is something that we use. Well, not goblins, but humans use to like make sugar white or something, or flour white. I can't remember. We use it for a lot of different things, but that's one of the main ones. And the people of Indonesia that live near this volcano work for like pennies to mine this sulfur where the acidic lake is, which has acidic properties released in the form of gas that shorten their lives. And it's like a horrible situation, but it's their livelihood and how they're mining it. But the blue lava, when molten sulfur reacts with the atmosphere, it creates a blue flame, and it makes it look like blue lava because it's molten sulfur moving that's igniting a blue flame. But you can only see it at night. During the day, you wouldn't see anything. So you can only see blue lava at night. They might show photos, I'm not sure.
Sorcery is this. Blue's not really a color that you'd associate with volcanoes. It's red. But the blue is a really special condition for that particular volcano. It's really full of sulfur. And when that sulfur erupts, as the lava's coming out, it's not the lava itself that's blue, but it's the gas that's associated with it.
Yeah, so that's the acidic lake. If you see a different colored lake, like a beautiful like turquoise or green hue, most likely it's acidic and you shouldn't touch it. Although if you're near a glacier, it might just be like a glacial lake, which also has a turquoise color. So you just need to know where you are.
And it creates this ethereal blue flame that really does look pretty spooky over the top of it. So the next question's from @1.
It's really uncanny. Tourists will go there to see the blue flame because it's very beautiful. But you're next to these people that are just like having horrible livelihood conditions for work. And then you're just like some tourist taking photos next to them. It's very, very interesting. You should not drink the battery acid lake. Although you can. You might have ill health effects. But you never know if you don't try. That's science.
Airbruff 18. Why are Iceland volcanoes so active? So Iceland's
pretty interesting. It's a hotspot, which is like a stationary magma plume. That's like a constantly fed magma source. That's what gives Iceland all its massive volcanic eruptions, but it's also on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is a plate boundary, which also produces magma. Divergent plate boundaries, you don't need to know anything about them, besides like it's a huge crack in the earth that is pumping out magma. I think it's like an Olympic-sized swimming pool erupts every 3 seconds from these areas. And divergent plate boundaries make up 80% of the volcanoes on Earth. So they're very active regions. So Iceland has an active hotspot and a divergent plate boundary, which makes it just a magma center for eruptions.
Is an island sticking out in the Atlantic Ocean, and Iceland is there, just like Hawaii, because of the huge amounts of volcanic activity over time. And that volcanic activity has meant that has built up from really deep in the seafloor and now sticks above the ground. And unlike Hawaii, Iceland is also located on a rift, so where the plates are moving apart like that. So what that means is there's 2 different mechanisms that help to generate that magma, and every now and then that magma has to make its way to the surface. And that's why their volcanoes are so active. So this question is from @MoraVagin_lol. What do volcanologists even...
A rift valley is a divergent plate boundary. I didn't explain that at all, but when a divergent plate boundary is 2 plates moving away from each other, which leaves like a gape or like a wound in the earth opening that allows it to like bleed magma.
really do except sit around talking about how badass volcanoes are. What else is there to be studied? They're volcanoes. Slightly rude. What I spend a lot of my time doing is I like to look at rocks. They're the secret recorders of some of the things that have happened to the magma before it erupted. And it unlocks lots of clues about how volcanoes are going to erupt. And this is basically frozen magma. And by examining...
It just says it right there. I was gonna be like, that's obsidian! That's volcanic glass. In other words, known as obsidian, which is what in Game of Thrones they killed White Walkers with. So grab yourself obsidian so you can kill some White Walkers, just in case the wall falls.
We can understand what sorts of things were in the magma that caused it to erupt.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain
Get out of
when
here,
you're in
Odd.
the zone.
Volcanic rocks are also erupted with crystals in them. You can maybe just about see the crystals now in this magma here. And believe it or not, crystals grow with very specific composition that we can use to unravel the pressures, temperatures, and the changes that happened that caused that magma to go from being nice, gentle magma sitting around quietly underneath the Earth's surface.
Yeah, there's a reason why magma, like in Hawaii, which is... I don't know how popular Hawaii is outside of the United States, but Hawaii's known for its beautiful lava eruptions. So is, I'm not going to pronounce it right, Souffleur Hills? I think it's in Italy, what I'm trying to say at least. But they're both very active with like lava flows in the past few decades. I mean, Kilauea on Hawaii is erupting right now, along with Mauna Loa, another volcanic center on the big island of Hawaii. But that magma has always been erupted in a nice calm manner where you just get really nice lava flows. And then you get sometimes volcanoes like Mount Vesuvius or like Mount St. Helens or Mount Pinatubo that erupt very, very violently. And the reason for that is because of the magma composition, like what the magma is made out of, which is when the rock cools, we get the hard bits of what the magma once was, so we can study it to figure out how that volcano will erupt in the future if we weren't alive for like its last eruption, which is good to know if you're living near that volcano.
To something that erupts and causes destructive mayhem that we associate with volcanoes. One of the really big challenges we've got as volcanologists is the warnings for us are understanding when that magma underneath the surface is on the move. And these are my modern measuring devices, if you imagine. And what we can do now is imagine in the subsurface, we've got these areas where magma might come through. Now, as the magma pushes up here, you can see it's starting to push and go where it otherwise wouldn't have been. So it creates all sorts of tension in the rocks around there, which create little waves that we can pick up with our splendid detecting devices. And we can tell how those waves have been generated and what's going on with that. And the other thing that happens is as the magma starts to push up, it actually makes our little volcano start to deform, and it will change its position.
Mount St. Helens anniversary is coming up. It erupted May 18th, 1980. And so May 18th will be its anniversary. If you've seen images of Mount St. Helens eruptions, you'll see like it looks like a normal, nice cone shape. And then all of a sudden it gets like this bulge on the side of it. It just swells on the side until a magnitude 5.1 earthquake happened, which then dislodged the bulge, which released the magma to the atmosphere to cause a main phase eruption where it's like very, very eruptive, because it was erupting for months before it had its massive eruption. So like we monitor volcanoes heavily to see if the ground is moving, if earthquakes are happening, just to see how active that volcano is, to know what alert we should put it at with the public to evacuate or not.
Which would mean that also what we can measure from, well, here's my funky satellite here. What we can measure by satellite is changes in the surface of the Earth. The next question is from Brabot747. My question is, what's your favourite volcano? Mine would be Mount St. Helens. My favourite volcanoes are all called soufriere. I've done huge amounts of field research. My favourite volcanoes are all called soufriere. I've done huge...
That's what I was trying to say. Soufriere.
Huge amounts of field research in the Eastern Caribbean. The little islands there are a line of volcanoes. Many of them have the name Soufriere in their title. So I love Soufriere St. Vincent on St. Vincent and Soufriere Hales Volcano, which is on Montserrat. When these volcanoes erupt,
Caribbean, not Italy.
What they do is they produce spectacular explosions, and sometimes they erupt slowly and gently. Not the red hot lava flows that you might expect, but build up of dome material at the top of the volcano. However, when those collapse back down, they generate deadly pyroclastic density currents, mixtures of red hot ash and gas, and they come flying down the hillsides at speeds that are much greater than certainly than you can run from, and almost definitely that you could drive from.
Yeah, pyroclastic flows can move, I'm trying to think of kilometers, 700 kilometers per hour, which is like 400 miles per hour. Maybe, I think I'm right. I'm doing the conversion in my head. I don't really remember. But yeah, you cannot outrun them. You cannot outdrive them. They're incredibly fast. If you're near a pyroclastic flow, you are probably going to die or survive, but with third degree or second degree burns.
And these are...
Oh, hi, Lucky. How are you? It's not Minecraft. It's not trilobites either. It's volcanoes.
Something that are lethal for anyone who's in their way. At Han I-17, how are people standing so relaxed near 4 live volcanoes in Iceland? Volcano tourism? So unreal. Volcano tourism isn't a new thing, but if you remember the idea of the Grand Tour of Europe, and one of the things that many tourists would do 200 years ago is they would go and visit the amazing volcanoes of Italy, including Stromboli and Etna, which are frequently erupting, and of course the amazing spectacle of Vesuvius and Pompeii near Naples. And one of the things that they can do that's really frightening is they can erupt explosively and suddenly. And this can and does catch people unaware. Make sure you follow really closely official advice about that volcano.
Yeah, it's very fast. They're incredibly... I don't remember the exact numbers on them. I can Google it really fast. See if Siri knows. Well, I guess she's just Googling. How fast is a pyroclastic flow? Or density current, doesn't really matter. 700 kilometers per hour. So it's 60 to 700 kilometers per hour. So I gave you the top speed, which is about 430 miles per hour. So pretty fast. Can't Google it at 10 kilometers a minute. That's for sure. You're correct. I cannot.
At Katie Nicholson 1 is wondering, where is the biggest volcano?
Oh, where is the biggest volcano? What would be? It'd have to be a caldera complex, which is like a collapsed volcano that's so large that you wouldn't even notice that you're like in a hole. It's the best way to describe it. Caldera is named after like a cauldron, so think of like a witch's pot, but just put it in the ground. I would want to say Yellowstone, but Yellowstone's 40 by 30 miles, which is pretty big. I feel like I'm missing one. But there's also Toba Caldera, which is, I don't know what it is in miles. I think it's 100 kilometers by 30 kilometers or something like that. I feel like this is going to be a trick question. It's going to be not Yellowstone. It's not going to be any of like the quote super volcanoes. It's going to be one of the flood basalt eruptions, like the Siberian traps. I bet it's going to be this. It's going to be the Siberian traps. It has to be. I don't know. What is the big... Tell me, volcanologist.
Define big. So if by big you mean the tallest, one of the tallest volcanoes are actually Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea.
I didn't even go for the tallest.
The remarkable thing about them is they've got about 4,000 or 5,000 meters worth of height below sea level. They've had to...
Yeah, it's taller than Mount Everest if you take it by sea level.
Build all that way up from the seafloor, and then they've got another 4,000 meters on the top. So once you count that level of building, they're taller even than Mount Everest. Technically, the tallest volcano in terms of height above sea level, they tend to be in the high Andes, which is of course a very high mountain range.
Patagonia. I want to go to Patagonia so badly.
Meters. And the big tallest volcano in the world in that sense is Nevada dos Ojos del Salado. Another way of measuring how big a volcano is how big the eruptions that it produces. So of course there are the super volcanoes, none of which have erupted.
Now I'm curious, because that volcano has the same start as another famous volcano, which is Nevada del Ruiz. Now I'm like, what is Nevada? Nevada? I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, because I'm pretty sure it's Spanish. Does that mean mountain?
Erupted in living memory, but historically the largest volcanic eruption was Mount Tambora in Indonesia.
Okay, well, she said historic. That's right. It erupted in 1815. 1915. No, 1815. 1815. It's 1815. It erupted in 1815. It caused the year without summer, which caused a huge famine in Europe and killed a bunch of people, even though this volcano is in Indonesia, very on the other side of the globe. It means with snow. I guess that makes sense. Because Nevada del Ruiz also had snow on it. Huh. That's cool. I had no idea. I'll take it.
Which erupted in 1815, and that created noises that were heard in Australia. Taylor McPee says, forgive me, he's forgiven, but what makes a volcano a supervolcano? Is it when multiple volcano eruptions combine, like a perforated ulcer? So strictly...
That's a horrible way to describe that, a perforated ulcer. A supervolcano is not an actual science term. It's a term that came from news outlets that just kind of stuck. And now, I mean, geologists use it now. But we refer to things that have usually a volcano explosivity index rating, which is like how you rate how large a volcano is. If it's a VEI 8, we normally consider it a super eruption, which is like something like Yellowstone. And Tambora, which they just showed, was a VEI 7. So pretty large. The top of the scale is 8. That's the largest that we've seen emitted. Like it's based on its like eruption column and the size of the magma ejected. So that's the largest that we have. It doesn't mean it's not the largest in the world probably that's ever happened. It's just the largest that we have seen in the rock record.
What makes a volcano a supervolcano is when it has a super eruption. And your imagery of a perforated ulcer is kind of a little bit right in terms of all sorts of magma coalescing and coming together to create a huge volume of material that would be erupted out all at once. And a super eruption is when you have 1,000 cubic kilometers of material erupted all at once from the interior of the Earth outside. And luckily, that's something that really doesn't happen very often. At Erin's Wonderland is wondering, why do volcanoes have different shapes and what plate boundaries do you find at each? Someone help. Google ain't helping.
Google's not helping? That's crazy. Look at Mount Fuji. She's such a pretty volcano. Okay, Mount Fuji is what's called a stratovolcano or a composite volcano or a stratocone. There's so many freaking different names, but it's like the classic volcano shape that people refer to. This shape or type of volcano is typically explosive, and it's formed at convergent plate boundaries where one plate subducts or goes underneath another plate. It just makes a more explosive style of magma that's like lighter in color and stuff. I'm trying not to use jargon as much. I have no idea what volcano this is, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's a shield volcano just by the look of it. So this looks like some type of cinder cone, which is like a little baby volcano on top of a bigger system, like a shield volcano. And those are associated more with hot spots or divergent plate boundaries. So not convergent, although you can have shield volcanoes at convergent plate boundaries. It's not a can't happen anywhere else in the world type situation for both of these things. It's just more commonly shield volcanoes are at divergent and hotspots, and subduction zone volcanoes are going to be like stratovolcanoes or that type of thing. But it doesn't mean that you can't have them both at the same place. I wish this, I could be my view from my apartment. I don't know. I would enjoy it if it is.
Stratovolcanoes tend to have much steeper slopes, that kind of classic volcano shape that we think of, whereas shield volcanoes tend to have much lower angle slopes.
I'm in the way.
In
but
different types of plate boundaries, there is a tendency for particular types of magma to be generated. So in the subduction zones, where we've got one plate going underneath the other, big explosive eruptions create lots of material, and so they pile up quite quickly, creating what we think of as the classic volcano shape. And in areas where you've got more gentle flows, you'll have more shield volcanoes. At Abby Smith wants to know, what has been the longest continuous eruption?
In Albion, no matter where you go or what you do, your mouth
I want to know what the longest continuous eruption is.
Perhaps
Longest continuous eruption. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. I'm still thinking the Siberian Traps, since that's the largest amount. I forget how much magma was erupted, but it can cover the Earth in 20 feet of magma, or of basalt, which is the rock that it is after it cooled. Which I don't know if that's the longest though. That's just the most material that's been erupted. Longest erupting volcano. I don't know. Maybe Yellowstone. We don't actually have good dates on that though. It has to be a flood basalt or a large igneous province. I don't know. We'll see.
Stromboli, for example, an island off the coast of Italy, has been erupting for thousands of years. It has little explosions. Even the Romans used to refer to Stromboli as the lighthouse of the Mediterranean. And it's had a few pauses that mean it's not the one that's thought of as continuous. But the volcano that we know that's been going the most continuously is Santiaguito volcano in Guatemala, which has been erupting continually since 1902.
Okay, I was thinking more like millions of years. Like the Siberian Trap eruptions erupted, it was either 1 or 2 million years. Like that's how long it was erupting. I was going back in time. I was not thinking recent history. That was my bad.
A Wasted Hour is wondering, what country has the most volcanoes, active and extinct?
Indonesia.
The United States of America, which has got many volcanoes in many different... What country has the most volcanoes?
No, we don't. America? We have the Cascades. And Long Valley. Oh, they said extinct too, though. No, it'd still be Indonesia. Maybe I'm obviously wrong.
Active and extinct. The United States of America, which has got many volcanoes in many different states along the west coast.
Oh, are they counting the Mesozoic volcano systems?
But in fact, I would say the country with the most active volcanoes, so where, for example, there are 7 volcanoes erupting right now, is Indonesia.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the country that's had the most volcanoes that have erupted since, for example, 1950.
Yeah, I guess if you're counting extinct, though, would it actually be? Okay, I don't know. I don't know where the terms of this question is stressing me out. My brain is breaking. Because technically, there was a huge subduction zone or an area that makes volcanoes along the whole West Coast, which is like, if you heard of Yosemite National Park, like that's all volcanic rock all the way to like Sequoia National Park and like Kings Rock and all of Kings Canyon National Park. All of that stuff is all volcanic. The whole Sierra Nevadas are all volcanic. So like those are all extinct, but the cones are gone. Like it's been completely eroded away and you're just seeing the guts of the volcano. So I didn't even consider those as extinct because they're not like recently extinct. They're like back when the dinosaurs existed, extinct. So I don't know, I guess, most extinct volcanoes weren't citizens in any other country.
So at Blah wonders, supervolcano overdue for an eruption could wipe out the whole US. Bitch, what?
No,
I think what you're worrying about
US.
is perhaps the supervolcano that you find in the
Won't be
US,
great.
Yellowstone. Its supervolcanic eruptions are about
That's
3 found in the US,
you guys,
Yellowstone.
my non-Americans out here, first off, Yellowstone is a gorgeous national park. It's our most visited national park, kind of. Technically, Appalachians National Park gets that title, but they're open year-round. Yellowstone closes a substantial amount of it in winter because it gets so much snow. But that's Grand Prismatic stream. Grand Prismatic, which is a acidic lake or pond. I don't know. I don't know what the distinction is between pond and lake. I'm a bad geologist. But it's a hot spring. And so it's geothermally active fluids that run through Yellowstone that give you really beautiful acidic lakes. Do not touch them though. So many people will like touch them and they burn themselves, and it's some people get lucky though and they touch one that's not that hot. But there's a great book called Death in Yellowstone. It's one of my favorite books. A lot of the national parks actually have these books. But it records like all the deaths that have happened, including like death by nature and death by people. Because Yellowstone also has, or I don't know if it's still active, but they have like a military base there that when you get trapped in the winters in Yellowstone and you're just like 2 people in a cabin and no one else, you get something called cabin fever, and then you go crazy and then you commit murder. So it was a very good book. So I definitely suggest it if you guys like books. I work with enough hydrologists to feel comfortable giving you the lake/pond pass. Yeah, it's the same.
Its supervolcanic eruptions are about 300,000 years apart. And to be honest, supervolcanoes don't always have supervolcanic eruptions. And what Yellowstone most often does is it has much smaller eruptions. Supervolcanic
Those aren't
eruptions.
eruptions,
So
that's
ones with
geothermal
those huge
activity, what
volumes
they just
of
showed. That's just a
material
geyser.
happen really, really infrequently. We're talking many, many thousand.
Yeah, they have the whole thing that Yellowstone's overdue for an eruption because technically, statistically, it erupts at this frequency, and we're like past that frequency time, but you can't average a volcano's frequency of eruptions like that. It doesn't make sense to do that because volcanoes don't follow a timeline. They erupt when they have the right conditions to erupt. So it's not something where you could say it's overdue, so it's going to erupt. It's not like that. Same thing with like earthquakes. You can't be like, well, there's an earthquake every so often. Doesn't mean that the earthquake's gonna feel that unless you were making a huge assumption that the stress is building up in that area to cause an earthquake at the same rate throughout time. Same with volcanoes, that volcanoes are having the same magma build up throughout time. But that's not what we see in the geologic past. So it's not overdue. If Yellowstone did erupt, though, we would all know it. I think it's the most monitored volcano in the world. So I think it's fine. Also, volcanoes don't just like boom. They have little baby signs before they're going to erupt. So we all know that we're going to die. So we'll be fine. It'll be like a meteor impact. We all know that it's going to happen.
of human lifetimes apart. So at Jedi Master Roman, trying to wrap my head around how volcanoes can cause tsunamis. It was wild.
I should just let her explain. I keep pausing. Tsunamis is just like a giant displacement of water that happens suddenly. But landslides, most of them are generated by earthquakes, but you can have landslides generate tsunamis. So a mass amount of rock and debris hitting the water to generate a tsunami, which is what a volcano can do. When a volcano blows up, it can create a volcanic landslide that goes into the water. Such like Krakatau in Indonesia, and then now Anuak Krakatau. They've generated tsunamis with their eruptions in is it the Java Strait? It's between Sumatra and Java, whatever that water pass is called.
You're right. In the case of volcanoes, when they erupt a huge amount of material that all comes back down into the sea at once, that creates the displacement that can generate a tsunami. But the other thing is that volcanoes build themselves up chaotically, and from time to time they can completely collapse. So if a volcano collapses down into the sea, then it can generate a tsunami as well. So most recently, there was an eruption of Anak Krakatoa, and it had a big eruption.
Oh yeah. It's Krakatoa, but it's in Indonesian it's spelled Krakatau. So that's the difference. But I wonder if they're going to show the other image. Hold on, I'll wait.
Generated a tsunami, and that inundated many of the villages.
Okay, they didn't. You can see Anuak Krakatau, which is son of Krakatau. So it's like Krakatau blew its head off, and now it's a little bit baby Krakatau in the middle, so it's like the sun. So you can actually see like the old, like large mass that's left of the old volcano, and then compare it to the little volcano, and it can show you the distinction between the two volcanoes. Because when Krakatau exploded, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure that's the loudest sound that's happened in human history. It was heard, the blast was heard from 3,000 miles away. I think I'm right. You guys might have to fact check me on that one though.
Nearby. At Red Erin is wondering what's the dark glassy volcanic
Obsidian!
rock called.
Kill the
It's
White
called
Walkers!
Obsidian. It's absolutely fantastic. If anyone plays Minecraft, you might have seen this. This is really...
Yeah, I've run into Minecraft obsidian. Dear freaking God, it's horrible to mine. It takes forever, even with a diamond pickaxe. It's not that hard. You can break it in real life pretty easily. And then crying obsidian's even harder. Put it underwater, it's harder. I still don't understand what to do with things under the water. There's so much in Minecraft I don't understand.
Real obsidian, and this is actually from the island of Lipari off the coast of Italy. And what this is volcanic rock that was magma, where the melt has quenched so quickly it hasn't made any crystals but actually turned itself into glass. And if you took a tiny little shard off this, you would almost be able to see through it. It's also...
Yeah, it's volcanic glass. Like, it actually is clear. Just when you lump it together, it just there's so many impurities that make it black. But there's mahogany obsidian, which has like red in it, and it's really pretty. And there's also iridescent obsidian, which has like a purpley, blue, green, different flakes to it, different shines, I guess, to it. And then there's snowflake. There's so much different types of obsidian. Then there's snowflake obsidian, which looks like snowflakes, I guess, that have landed on the obsidian. It has like white crystals throughout it. There's like really cool versions of obsidian. I forget what the crafting is, but you like take an antler. I mean, you can use anything, but traditionally you take an antler to it and it's not flinting. There's a name for it. I don't remember what the name is. But you can like hit it and you will make weapons out of it. Like you can make arrowheads and stuff. Napping. Thank you. It's napping. Yeah. It's really cool though. I have so much obsidian, like an absurd amount for whatever reason. So many people just give me obsidian. They're like, you're a geologist, here's obsidian. And I have like boxes full. And I have antlers too. And I'm like, I shouldn't just like learn how to nap. I have family members that have done it before. But it just looks, obsidian concordally fractures where like your phone screen, it breaks randomly, I guess. But that's what a conchoidal is. But it will like look like little holes or like circles that break out of it. And it's just so sad. Like, if you watch videos on it, it's just so satisfying to watch. Or it's satisfying to me, at least.
So very, very sharp. It was used by many cultures as a cutting implement. So for example, Native Americans in South America, the Maori in New Zealand, pretty much anywhere where they could access this really special type of volcanic rock. So at ProBucks asks, weather dummy here, how do volcanoes cause lightning? So volcanoes cause lightning separate to the kind of lightning phenomena that we see in the atmosphere, because when we have an explosive eruption, huge amounts of ash is thrown out into the atmosphere, and that's actually electrostatically charged. And so the differences in charge cross the plume that's generated by that explosion.
People die from volcanic lightning too.
At Quiet Bat People is wondering, why do volcanoes become inactive? And that's an easy answer. Volcanoes become inactive when it runs out of magma that can get up to the surface. We either think of volcanoes as potentially active, which means in the process of erupting, or extinct. So dormant, I think, really means when you think it could erupt again, but it might not. And we tend to refer to those as potentially active volcanoes. And round the world on land, there are about 1,400 of these volcanoes. Cassie has got a really interesting question. Questions from 5-year-olds. What would happen if I fell into a volcano? So if you fell into the crater of an active...
That's really funny. I gave a talk once, and it was to, like, I think it was like kindergarten through 4th graders. And that was the first question that they asked me. I was giving a presentation about volcanoes, like baking soda volcanoes, fun things, hands-on activities for kids. And they're like, if I fall into a volcano, will I die? And I was like, yes. Yes, you will.
To volcano, and say for example it had a hot lava flow in the crater. That lava flows at about 1200 degrees centigrade, so super hot. So certainly a temperature at which it would be very difficult to survive for very long at all. This is an interesting
very
question
difficult to
from
survive.
Mackenzie Turman. If volcanoes create new land, how did the first volcano come about?
You can have a volcano erupt through water.
Actually, magma was first. Believe it or not, when the Earth was first formed, it was a giant ball of...
Hey, have you seen Dante's Peak? I don't want to spoil anything. But you can walk through lava.
Of magma. And actually, it was as that started to cool down slightly that land was able to be formed. So the volcanoes were absolutely definitely first, but the planet was one giant ball of magma. And it wasn't until it created the land that the volcanoes had to start pushing out through that land and forming. At Silver Dreams, I just thought of something. If sea levels can rise and undersea volcanoes erupt to create new land masses, does that mean Earth is gradually becoming a bigger sphere over time? Can you answer this?
No, we got plate tectonics.
Well, Silver Dreams, that's a really good thought. So if we're thinking about things erupting and moving apart like this, then you would think that over time the Earth would be getting bigger. But actually, because of plate tectonics, these plates are growing and moving like this, creating new landmass. But at the same time, at the other end, there's plates that are going down underneath one another and
that's the process
of
subduction.
Both these areas are where volcanoes can be created, but they're what it means that over time, the Earth has remained the same size.
Look, you're not actually going to get anything done by watching another YouTube video. In fact,
lies.
You're literally only procrastinating.
The next question is from @Ira Cook. How does volcanic ash from South America stop flights to Melbourne? Pretty amazing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping my flight makes it.
Causes planes to crash.
So perhaps you will all remember when flights were stopped in 2010 from Ayutthaya.
Okay, I had to move for this. Icelandic names in general, but Icelandic volcano names are ridiculous. When this volcano erupted, I think it erupted in 2010, somewhere near there. It was so hard to talk about it because it like disrupted air travel in Europe. And so basically all of North America and Europe could not travel between each other. Or you had to go like on a huge diversion after the volcano quieted down. Because again, you cannot take a plane through ash. The plane will crash. Like it does not work. Ash is powderized rock, and so once it gets into the engine, it just basically clogs it. And then it overheats, and then you crash, and you're not likely to survive. I'm trying to say it in the nicer way, like she did. But I don't know how to say this. Like, even when I was in Iceland, I was struggling.
And that was a really unfortunate circumstance of atmospheric circulation that was pushing ash towards Europe. So they had to close European airspace. And that's, of course, because there's all sorts of different types of atmosphere circulating. And once volcanic eruptions are sufficiently big that they inject material up into the upper atmosphere or the stratosphere, that ash and those particles get traveled all around. And guess what? Aeroplane engines do not like those particles. They operate at temperatures that will turn that volcanic ash back into, if you like, magma. Stick to the propellers, which is really not a situation that you want if you want them to keep going round. So, for that reason, when there's volcanic ash in the atmosphere, airplanes will avoid it. So at K. Olsen JD, do volcanoes communicate with one another? So it's not like trees, in the Disney film Lava, where the volcanoes sing nice little songs to one another as they grow and fall back into the sea. But it is possible that when magmatic systems are close together, so the volcanoes at the surface are close together, their feeder systems, as there's things moving around in one system, the resonance and the pushes and the shoves in the ground get transmitted to another. So it's not that they'll erupt all one after another, but it's possible that some of those stresses and strains that we see in the subsurface do travel from one system to another.
They talk.
So at Jess Phoenix 2018 is wondering, have you heard any of the volcanic infrasound recordings? My colleague Jeff Johnson at Boy State records the sound volcanoes make below the range of human hearing. It's captivating. Yes, I have heard those infrasound recordings.
It is uncanny.
And they are captivating. So when volcanoes erupt, they cause all sorts of displacements and movements in the atmosphere and in the rocks that surround them as the magma is moving up. And these generate waves. And the infrasound waves, when you change their frequency, can be turned into sound waves that give an amazing record of some of these processes that are taking place.
If all the volcanoes were at the same time, that'd be amazing.
At Matthew CR has the question, when it comes to geological terms, what is the Ring of Fire? Where is it in terms of plate boundaries? So here we go. This is a map of the Earth. And these white dots show the plate boundaries of the Earth.
It's a giant subduction zone.
You can see marked really clearly
plates,
around the Pacific Ocean here.
Underneath.
We have this big run of plate boundaries. And they all happen to be the plate boundaries where one plate is going down underneath another that generates quite a lot of explosive volcanism. Hence the name Ring of Fire, because there's lots of volcanoes all around this plate boundary.
It's also... This is not a real name, but like it's the ring of earthquakes as well. Subduction zones, which is where one plate goes under the other, is the most active tectonics, which give you the most active volcanoes, but it also gives you the most active earthquakes. So if you think back, well, if you guys were alive, but it depends if you were alive or not, but in 2011, the Tohoku earthquake in Japan that triggered a tsunami, that was a magnitude 9, I think. And then we had the Anchorage, Alaska earthquake, and I think it was the 60s, but I might be wrong. I think it was 1964. It was a 9.2, which is the second largest earthquake ever recorded. And then Chile's earthquake in South America was a 9.5, which is the largest earthquake recorded. And then we have the Sumatra earthquake as well in 2004 that caused the Boxing Day tsunami that killed 250,000 people. All of those also occur on these subduction zones or the Ring of Fire. So it's a very dangerous area to live. Because not only do you have volcanoes, you have the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded.
And it surrounds the Pacific. Okay, so at J. Humphrey, ever wonder why some volcanoes, like Mount St. Helens, erupt explosively, while others, like Kilauea, use lava? One of the things...
It's because of the magma! It's all about the magma! Different magmas will trap more gas. Make it more pressurized, more explosive.
It's really amazing about volcanoes around the world is there's all sorts of different types of magma. And these different types of magma lose and grow gas within them in different ways. So, for example, this...
Is that andesite? I feel like it's andesite, but it might just be some type of porphyritic basalt. It's been bugging me. I don't have it in my hand. It's hard for me to see. I want her to tell me what it is.
This is
Oh wait, hold on. That's not andesite. That's more glassy. That's basalt. I can't tell. I need to look at it.
magma that's a
No, that's just basalt. That's vesicular basalt. Never mind. It's not andesite. If it's basalt, which I'm pretty sure it is now, but those are going to be more like the runny type lava flows that they're showing behind me. The Kilauea style volcanic eruptions.
little bit more like what you might see in Kilauea, and you can see it's got these great big bubble holes, and that's because the gas can move around quite freely in the magma. But other types of magma are kind of quite...
Think of granite. Granite's forms in the earth from cooled magma, so it's not like the stuff at the surface being erupted. That would be something like rhyolite, but it is a lighter color and it's more sticky, like toothpaste, so it traps gas really well and then explodes more violently.
resistant to that, and they create lots and lots of tiny little bubbles, which creates huge pressures that mean when the volcano finally explodes, there's a huge release of that pressure, generating very large explosive eruptions. And those large explosive eruptions generate something like this, which is pumice.
What's really funny, what if I was like, this is me, Vtuber, and then me IRL? What if I was on Wired Complete? I'd be so ecstatic. Yeah, I guess that's pumice, but pumice is just rhyolite. It just has holes in it. It's like holy rhyolite, which makes it pumice, which can float on water. Like obsidian. Obsidian is the same thing as pumice. It's the same composition. Like it's made of the same chemicals, basically. But it just forms in a different way because it gets quenched or rapidly cooled. Your accent switching is solid. It's all a ruse. I use a voice changing accent changer to speak to you guys.
Which is super light, and the reason it's super light is because it's absolutely full of holes, which are a record of that gas trying really hard to get out, being resisted by that type of magma. But I'm going to put this into the beaker.
It'll float.
And it's going to float. And it's floating because it's super light, because it's largely composed of bubbles with just tiny little filaments.
Oh, there's a research project. This wasn't my research project. It was someone else's. But they would do, basically, I forget what type of 3D printer it is. The resin one, maybe? I can't remember. I'm not too familiar with 3D printers. But they would 3D scan pumice and then 3D print that pumice in a much larger space. So it's like a huge chunk of pumice, so you can see the holes and how the gas traveled more reasonably, because they were like, I don't remember what they were studying, like bubble nucleation or something. I don't remember. But it was so cool because you get to see the whole entire like maze system that was created in these pumice pieces using 3D printers. I don't know. It probably sounds really lame, but it was really, really cool, I swear.
It's of volcanic glass. Okay, so at E. Batterson is wondering, where do volcanoes get the magma/lava?
From
and lots of people
the
think there's a
mantle,
huge
the
sea of
Athena
magma just below the crust. That's not true. There's not magma everywhere. It's particular...
Yeah, we call them mantle, which, like, crust, mantle, and core. That's like some of the layers. Those are the chemical layers, but there's physical layers as well, meaning like states of matter, so solid, liquid, or gas. There's like a state of matter that we call plastic, which is what the mantle is, where it's not quite a solid, but not quite a liquid. It's kind of in between, and it's just because it goes through phases really quickly between solid and liquid. So that's where melt can be generated, given the right conditions. If enough melt is created, then it would be more buoyant than the plastic mantle, and then it would come up to the crust and maybe make a volcano if it's lucky enough.
Conditions that are created to generate that magma. And I'm going to show you this for a subduction zone. So here's one plate.
Oh, she's going to do partial melting.
Diving down. Here's another plate here crashing into it. Okay. Now what happens is as that plate goes down, it gets heated up and squeezed, and it gives off fluids, and those fluids create the special conditions where melt can be generated. Now that melt has got liquid in it, so liquid rock if you like, but it's also got gas, and it's hot. And what that means is that melt has a tendency to rise. And as it rises up towards the surface, it will come out. And then eventually what we have is our volcano. I've been loving your questions from the internet. This has been Volcano Support signing off.
Okay. I hope you guys learned something about volcanoes. Thank you for letting me eat my dinner. Not enough people talk about this. I never feel like I have enough to say to do that kind of thing. I could talk about geology for days. I guess that's why I teach it. Because that's all I do for my job. Okay. How should I think this will work. Okay, this is Kawa-Ijen, which is that blue lava. I gotta move, I'm in the way. Oh, what the hell am I moving right now? Okay. So this is Kawa-Ijen. So it's that blue flame from the molten sulfur combusting. And this is what it looks like during the day. So you can only see the blue lava at night. But it's really cool. Oh my god. It's really cool. But these are the miners. So all that yellow stuff is sulfur. Sulfur, if you don't know, smells like rotten eggs. And I'm not going to lie to you. I've mentioned this before on stream, but I love the smell of sulfur. I love it. I've been to Yellowstone probably like 10 times, and I just... I'm one of those people that are like, this smells great. Give me more of that rotten egg smell. It smells so nice to me. I'm so messed up. But so they mine the sulfur, but they don't have any protective gear or anything. They're, I guess you could consider them contractors in a sense. So they don't have any mine safety or anything like that. But they'll go and mine the sulfur and then carry it up on their backs with these little baskets. And there's no path. Like, they're just walking on the side of a volcanic crater all the way up, and then they put it in like in a little wheelbarrow and then wheelbarrow it down the mountain, and then have it weighed for whatever price they're gonna get for however much they carried. They actually are pretty innovative though. They have these pipes that you guys can maybe see because this image is blurry. Let's do this one. So you can see these like metal pipes. So that actually allows the liquid sulfur to be channelized to go down where it's easier for them to mine it. But it's a very, very dangerous job. I forget, it might have been Business Insider. Some YouTube channel actually did a really good interview that followed around one of the workers. But they live next to this acidic lake. Like, birds fly over this acid lake and die and fall into the lake. Like, this isn't something you should be near. So it's not good conditions. Oops, that's the pause screen.